This is ACOFAE. Laura Marie and Jessica Marie proudly present A Court of Fandoms and Exploration, a podcast. Fair warning, everything the hosts say is explicit, full of spoilers and adult content and shall not be used against them. They have opinions. Let's try not to drag anyone for expressing themselves and just have fun for an hour. We all deserve it.
Everybody, and welcome to A Court of Fandoms and Exploration, your weekly deep dive into the YA literature and fandoms that we love. I'm Laura Marie.
And I'm Jessica Marie.
And today we are discussing something that is kind of different, but something that Jessica and I both absolutely love.
Con life.
Con life.
So con, whoever's not in the world, is just the life of conventions. And, you know, we are a podcast about fandoms and exploration, and that's exactly what con life is.
Oh, con life is fantastic. And we have so much to say, but before we get started, we have a little disclaimer.
So we did want to note that because of this topic and the experiences that we've shared, we might not be disclosing all of the individual people of the stories that we're going to be sharing. I mean, some people we will, because there have also been topics that were covered all over social media. But I also really want to keep my job. So I'm not going to be sharing certain names. Laura's not going to be sharing certain names. We also do not want to any slander or libel cases coming for us. So that's kind of our quick disclaimer.
Now that we have that out of the way, let's really dive into con life and what it is, what you need to bring, what the experience is like, and how we got started. So I'll go first because I started the convention life before Jessica, and I kind of roped her in. So,
like with all things, like in the best way possible. Again, the best way possible.
Okay. So I moved to New Jersey. Yes, I moved to New Jersey, and I
feel like everyone's like, what?
What? Yeah, I moved to New Jersey, and the place that I moved was really fantastic location because I was like an hour and a half from New York on the train and like an hour driving to Philly. And that is just wonderful for a lot of reasons, but for convention life, it is just like the prime spot, right? So my first convention, and Jess and I were talking about this, trying to figure it out. I am like 99% sure my first convention was New York Comic Con, which is a huge one to be your
heavy
first.
Hitter.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I remember what I wore. I remember what my hair was like. Sam was with me, and I remember both of us falling asleep on the train afterward. So in that convention, I didn't get any celebrity pictures. I got autographs from Tom Felton and Carrie Fisher, R.I.P. And it was this whole experience. So because of New York Comic Con, I got really invested in the con life. So I found the Cherry Hill Deep Space Nine Star Trek 20th anniversary celebration. And for 2 years, I went to the Cherry Hill Star Trek conventions, and they were not on the scale of New York Comic Con. They were just in a hotel, and it was really, it was wonderful because these are the people that I love and grew up with, but it was also really sad just because coming from New York Comic Con and the Jarvis Center and being in this huge convention hall into a hotel was just really telling of the fandoms and the money and kind of just the vibe. The vibe was very different, but I'm mentioning the Star Trek conventions because it was so important because I met, while I was waiting in line for my photo ops, this man. I don't know his name.
You never found out his name either, right?
I never found out his name. But I was talking about how cool this is and how I would love to meet Shatner. That was the one. And he turned around and he was like, well, have you heard about Wizard World? I was like, what? And this man, he had red glasses, really long, like gray hair. He was not a young man. He was on the bigger side, and he had all of his like con stuff, all his material, like all his essentials. And he is kind of who I based like our con life off of. Like he had been in it for like so long. So I took everything that he gave me and kind of just put it out there. So this man who I ended up seeing at all of the other conventions that I went to for all the years that I lived in New Jersey, and we would see each other and like do the nod and like make eye contact and be like, hello, yes. But we never spoke again. Just so weird.
But there was an acknowledgement like, I see you, right?
Yeah, like I see you, you see me, we see each other. And he told me about Wizard World Philadelphia, and that's where I could go meet Shatner. And then going to Wizard World Philadelphia, which like Wizard World is my favorite con scene. From there, I ended up roping in our very own Jessica Marie. So Jessica Marie, tell me.
Okay, like no secret. Everything Laura's like, Laura, Jessica, you really like this. I'm like, yeah, I like it. Of course, like it. It's its own world. And I think it's very different because whereas Laura, you came from a household that completely embraced fantasy, completely embraced sci-fi. You have that shared experience with your dad. I did not have that. I was very much the way I was brought up is, unfortunately, there are stigmas that come with the con scene, the type of people that come with the con scene. And I never really understood it because to me, in my heart, I go, but I like these people. I like these conversations. But the way I was raised, it was like, you are who you hang out with. And it was a very superficial of you are an extension of this family and what you enjoy, that's going to put a stigma onto this family. And I hate that because it just reminds me of the Plastics and Mean Girls, and they look a certain way on the outside, but they're not good at their core. And then you have stigmas for, and it's a societal thing. It's not just my family. And I hated that. And of course, as I was older, I was like, no, like that's not a reflection on anybody. Why was this drilled into my head? So Laura roped me into the con scene, loved it. Great conversation. Because it's everybody's there for the things that they love. And it's not just like nobody's there because they casually like something. And I think that's what's really exciting about the con scene is that you're not just, oh, I watched an episode of blah, blah, blah. No, it's you binged something. And if you ever think, oh my gosh, I'm a little like if you're kind of self-conscious about how much you like something, even whether there's a stigma that it's nerdy or you like it too much or you might be obsessed. Like the con scene is the place where it's like, you thought you liked it. It's almost a competition. It could be considered an unhealthy competition for who's the bigger fan, who's the truer fan. And I also don't vibe well because just because you don't go to everything doesn't make you less of a fan. But it's an experience to say the least. Nobody tells you how mentally and physically exhausting it is. And even when they tell you, you have to experience it because there is such thing as a mental exhaustion because you're waiting in lines all day, but it's a moment, especially we grew up in Florida, like, who did we know? I mean, we actually did people who are quote unquote famous now knew those people, but these are celebrities that we've looked up to or part of our favorite shows and you kind of get to geek out over. It's just such a cool experience because there is no scene but the con scene. And when we started, it wasn't what it is now, like tickets could go out. You could get tickets day of because things weren't selling out because it wasn't popular the way it's popular now.
And it didn't get popular until we'd been doing it for like 4 years, 5 years. Easy? Yeah.
Easily because we were vets by a certain time. Like you had even known who, Kitsy?
Kitsy. From Celeb Photo Ops, yeah.
So like we start knowing who these people are, and everybody has a preference. Some people prefer autographs, some people prefer photos. Sometimes it's if you really like the person, you get both. It really just depends on the experience that you're trying to get out of it.
So you're talking about being mentally and physically exhausted, which is exactly the perfect way to describe the con scene. So why is that? Well, it's because you are waiting in line. So bigger cons, you wait in line for a longer period of time, obviously, because there's more people, but smaller cons, you wait, everything moves kind of faster in smaller cons. But the thing that you don't really understand until you experience it is when you're waiting in line, you're like, I'm going to meet this famous person. And you're like, I'm cool. I'm going to be cool. I'm going to be cool. It's not a big thing. I'm not nervous. No. But as you get closer to the person, you get more and more nervous. And then if you're doing like a photo op, you get into the curtain, right? Because you're waiting in line and everything is like curtains and blacked out, so you can't see. And then you're like 3 people back, and you step behind the curtain and you see the cameras and you see the talent, and you're just like, oh my God, oh my God.
There's that exhilaration, especially when you're new to the con scene, especially when you come from small towns the way we did. Like, this is, quote unquote, like, not to be all city slickers, but this is like big city stuff that we, these people that we've been exposed to for years, and people that we love and the shows that we love and whatever you associate that talent with, you're like, they're right there. And if they're attractive, you're like, it's not even, I feel like Emma Stone with Ryan Gosling and Crazy Stupid Love, where she's like, it's not even fair. You're real. Like, you look better in real life. That's not fair.
And you have like a moment of disconnect too, because you're like, oh my God, this is actually happening. Like, and people say like you should never meet your idols. And I could not disagree with that more. Like, correct. I think you should meet your idols because it gives you like a really good perspective on like if you vibe with them or not. And it is very clear, like right away, if you are vibing with somebody or not in a photo op situation, maybe not so much in autographs, but in a photo op situation, because their energy is contagious. And if their energy is down, then you're just like, weird and awkward. But if their energy is like high and they're having fun and things are just like super chill, then you're like that too, and they put you at ease. And it's so different. Like, everybody's different, every person is different, but as a fan, no matter how many times you've done it, there's always that your heart is always beating faster and you're always just a little bit sweaty because it's real and it's happening, and it's so cool.
And because of that vibe, you can tell the people who are there because they love fans, they love the human interaction, they genuinely, yeah, it's a payday, but they're having fun doing it, right? And then you have other people who you can tell they're just ready to make their money and leave. They don't care. I remember the one that I bought you an expensive photo, not expensive, but it was more than the table photo op. For one person, and you had missed the time, and you were like, hey, but like, can you already have my money. I already paid more. Can I just do a selfie? Here's my ticket. You can take it. Like, I have no ulterior motive. And he was a dick. And he wasn't like, you were saying like, oh, never meet your idols. One, he wasn't an idol, but 2, I think it shows how you want to support that person in the future, and that's one of the things that I really like about cons is that takeaway of like, how are they with people? Then you have some talent who are really good with the fans, and they're actors, so they know how to act. They're great towards other people, and then behind the scenes, they're pieces of shit.
Oh yeah, and we should point out that there's a lot going on in conventions. There's celebrity photo ops, there are autographs, there's Artist Alley, which is where the comic book drawer, inkers and like all sorts of that stuff.
All where the fan art, the physical fan art you can find.
That's all there. And then there's
panels.
The panels, which can go either way, right? A panel can be super fun or it can just fall flat. And that is also on the moderator, and that's the moderator is really important. That's on the vibe of the actors, and that's also on kind of the crowd that's there. So there's panels, and then there's like merchandise, tons and tons of booths with merchandise, And there's also like food stalls and like drink stalls and stuff.
And then the bigger picture is how the organization and management of a con. There have been cons, and we'll get into it later in this episode, that have nobody was prepared for the influx of people. There's shifting dates. You have people who've tried to run cons as this was their first large event. And I think of Rhode Island Comic Con specifically. The first time we went, we were like, well, we're only going for Saturday, but we had arrived to Rhode Island not even a day early. We made good timing. So we said, let's go check out the venue before we go see our friend. And thank God we did, because come Saturday, the mess that first year was or whatever, we were at least able to navigate day 2 because we had gotten a feel for the land on day 1.
Well, and let's talk about that, because there is a quality when it comes to conventions, and it doesn't really matter the space. I mean, the space does help, like, obviously, but if you are well organized and you are ready, it shows. And when you're not, oh my gosh. So Rhode Island Comic Con, for like example, was split into like 2 different places within the same building, and you had to go up like a flight of stairs and then go through a breezeway to get. And it took forever. And the planning of like, sometimes you want to go to a panel, but you can't because you have like an autograph and you have times. You can't just show up. So you are timed for like photo ops. You have to be there at a certain time. The way that Rhode Island Comic Con was, like, you were running back and forth between this huge breezeway and stairs. And there's so many people there, and you're like, really, this is all obviously pre-COVID, and you're like, everybody's touching each other and you're all trying to get out of your way. And it was just this huge thing. And then they would come on announcements and be like, oh, well, this person doesn't want to be, I remember this person doesn't want to be with the rest of the cast, so they've moved their autograph booth to a different side of the convention hall, and they do that over the loudspeaker, but you can't hear that.
And that particular con was taken at the arena, which is connected to the convention center, which is also connected to a hotel. But the arena, it's where they play hockey. So everything's echoing. You can't hear anything.
You're freezing.
You're freezing, but at the same time, when more people get there, you're like, thank God this isn't a hockey ring, because I'd be sweating. And again, that goes with the con bag too that we discussed. We haven't discussed yet, but like, you have to be layers. Layers are going to be your friend when it comes to the con scene.
So the convention that I feel like was the absolute worst, and I know that you feel the same way, was...
Oh, I already know where you're going.
Do you want to say the name of it?
You could go.
It was Walker Stalker Con in Jersey, and it was a flaming hot logistical mess.
So the specific... granted, we've all know that particular con has like gone down the tube. So we could openly say that they have been reported to the Better Business Bureau multiple times. So this is pre all of that, but this was also the height of Walker Stalker, which showed The Walking Dead. So this was forever ago. It was before, that was the day, whatever year it was, you said you were moving to Germany. And I was like, I'm so happy for you. And I was so happy for you, but I was like crying when I got home. I was like, I'm losing my best friend. And clearly that didn't happen. So, but what happened was Ian Somerhalder was on his photo ops, and his everything was going to be on a Saturday or on a Sunday. And then obviously you had like Norman Reed, like usually with the cons, especially for a smaller con that's only over like a 2-day weekend, you have your headliners, just like you would at your like a festival concert. You have your 2 main draws for each day. Well, whatever happened, Ian could not do it on Sunday anymore. He had to do it on Saturday. So the convention said, look, we know a lot of people are here for, a lot of people had photo ops for Ian. We will honor your Sunday ticket for Saturday, as opposed to getting a refund, blah, blah, blah. Everybody's happy. Problem was the space. You have 2 very different demographics audiences. You have the Vampire Diaries audience. You have the Walking Dead audience, and you initially had them on 2 separate days, essentially. And now you have them all under one roof in one day. There's just no space. Logistically, there's no space. People were in a underground parking garage. It was a mess. We literally had only decided to go to this con because we knew getting the ticket to the con and Ian's photo op was less expensive than going to another convention brand, Creation Entertainment. So we're like, let's be practical about this. So we did. It was a mess. It's also the infamous con that Norman Reedus got bit at during his photo op.
I cannot emphasize enough how terrible this was. So there were so many people, and the lines for your photo ops, like in theory, would be able to like hold enough people, but there were so many people there that the lines were curving around. Okay, there are ways to manage that, but the space, they didn't move the space. Like they didn't
move the space. They didn't communicate. So everybody was hovering because, and they were like, oh, you need to space out, essentially. But then they weren't communicating. So how are you going to get that information when your op was going to be? And as Laura said, you only have a window. If you don't go to that window, you're SOL.
And the lines in that con, the photo op lines, backed up right against all the food vendors. So you had the people that were buying food. Do you remember that? The people that were buying food behind you, and then you were like waiting in line. And then on the right of that was like a paintball kind of zombie, like haunted house thing where there were like screams and like flashing lights and everything. So people were screaming about the photo ops, like, this person now and this person now, and like wait here in this line because it's all taped. There's like line tape on the floor, so you're in the like right spot, and nobody can hear anything. And it was just the worst. It was the worst ever. And I think we got our photo ops, we picked up our pictures, and we just left because it was awful. And when we left, I don't know if you remember this. I remember that when we left, they had been holding people outside because they were at capacity.
God, I completely forgot they were at capacity. And then you had that whole uproar saying, how do you sell tickets, refusing refunds, and not letting them into the con?
Yeah. So then like we left and, we're just 2 people, and then they would let 2 people in, and they were doing it that way. And those people were like, but we have our photo op times. It's like, yeah, but you can't go in. And there's people that are in there just like loitering and like enjoying con life because that's what cons are. But there's a line of people that can't get in the building. And it was just the worst. It's the worst.
It was the worst. And I mean, clearly it didn't get any better because the company folded.
This is true. So, Jess, if that's our worst con, what is your best con?
Oh, okay. They're the best for different reasons. So, New York Comic Con was my first con, or maybe, and kind of Wizard World when we first started conning together. Because I think there is a typical, people have a certain style when it comes to cons. You get to wear all your fan merch. You get to this is where you get to kind of hype everything up. And Laura and I, we were like, we want our photo ops. We want to look cute. We would get done up. Months of planning of what do you think about this as a con dress? And we said, that's a nice dress, but it's not con level. That's how we kind of prepped for it. We just leaned into it because we know that our photos were going to be immortalized by ourselves, nobody else. It was just, this is a moment for us that we wanted to, feel like we wanted to feel pretty. So that was always fun. And Wizard World, I always they seem to pull some of the better people than at the bigger cons. I think my first photo op so New York Comic Con was my first one because I had just caught up with Doctor Who, loved John Barrowman. He was my first, that was my first intro into sci-fi and fantasy, not including Harry Potter, that I remember telling, again, this is another thing that Laura got me into, you guys. You all. I'm trying to be better about my plurals. So it was just another thing where I would ask so many questions, especially with Doctor Who. I don't get it. This isn't making sense. Laura just said, you got to go with it. You can't ask questions. And I was just trying to break everything logically down. And she said, no, you can't do that. If you keep doing that, you're not going to get the experience that you need to. So meeting John Barrowman was amazing. And if anybody who listens follows him or knows anything about him, he's the prime example of what he could be a one-man con. He could do his panels. He can interact. He's, especially when he became good friends with Stephen Amell, he would be moderating Stephen's panels. He's the person who's going, I remember one time, he found an extra bottle of wine for me because I went to one of the parties, and I was like, "No, we're out of wine." He goes, "I got you." Like, he's that person. So that will always be something special. But I think the best con is probably the Supernatural con, right? What would you say?
I love the Supernatural con. The Supernatural con was top tier. And I think that has to do with the vibe of everybody, with who we were with what we were doing. And yeah, the Supernatural con is really, really up there as an absolute favorite con, which is really funny because it's not a big one. It is, it's only the Supernatural TV show. There is nothing else there. And, God, it was fantastic.
And I think it's a good example for me, what you were saying from the Star Trek con, where you were saying, it was in like the sad, dinky hotel. The Supernatural con was in a Hilton or a Marriott. Like, it wasn't in any elaborate 4 seasons. It's just a hotel with a ballroom. Everything is so organized. And it's really fun because there's always something to do. You have the itinerary. They're also really good about not overlapping things. So if you wanted to attend a panel, you could also get a photo op. And usually if there's a photo op happening, they're like the quote unquote panel that's going on is like a fan Q&A or a fan, like they're doing fan trivias or showing fan art or like fan YouTube videos that people had submitted leading up to that weekend. So that was definitely, between the 3 of us that went, great energy. I still don't know how we were hungover. Maybe it's just because we never sobered up. It was great. And like you said, just the vibe of the people, because if you said, oh, this is my first con, this is my first Supernatural con, you're just immediately embraced, right? Like, people are excited for you. And that's what's so great about certain fandoms, that there isn't this judgment of, oh, you just started it, it's, oh, yay, somebody else that'll love what we love. And I thought that maybe that impacts us a lot with what we're doing with the podcast. We're like, we just want to share. Everybody just share with us, please. More people.
I remember specifically there was a girl that was in front of us in line for the Jared and Jensen photo op. And I don't know if you remember this, but she was
crying girl.
She was crying. She was so nervous,
she
right?
Was so nervous.
And like we like really embraced her. We're like, it's okay. Like, calm down. Like, what do you need? Like, we had our con bags. We were ready. We're like, what can we do for you to like make you feel comfortable? And like, this is what you're going to expect. And that the Supernatural con, and to an extent the Supernatural fandom, maybe not so much now, but then very much so, is so welcoming and so wonderful and so lovely and just a big family. And that con was the one that made me really appreciate panels because of the way that the panels were set up, and also just the way that the talent interacts with everybody, specifically that Mark Sheppard doesn't sit on the stage and just like answer questions. Mark Sheppard takes the microphone and paces around the room and goes up and down the aisles.
It's unsettling for somebody. You're like, because then he'll answer the questions, even if you didn't have to ask the question, but he'll answer directly to you. It's always, you're like, oh.
And it's such a nice change of pace from somebody just being like very wooden, like sitting on the stage. And also the Supernatural Con, there was karaoke that one night that we were there.
How about, I mean, granted, everybody has different financial backgrounds, but the way people would bid on sweaty cast member shirts, and they're like, oh, and then they would just look to whoever because it's all ages, and then they would just look at their parent or guardian or whoever they brought, and they go, so we owe $550 now. And you know what I think is, it's also very telling of the cast itself. You can tell talent who get along off screen, and you can tell that they have a great dynamic on screen, like just the chemistry that cast in general has. You have, like, they're the ones who are hosting it. It's not some professional moderator. It's somebody from the cast, or they have karaoke night, like you were saying. And if the talent is in the hotel and they don't have anything going on, they'll just join you on stage. They don't have to, because they're already contracted. They already have things like their guarantee of what they're getting paid. It doesn't matter. They could just show up. They're getting paid regardless. So the fact that they are willing to be that interactive, it just makes the whole experience. It really does.
I'm laughing because I'm thinking of the song that everybody was singing, "Where's Misha?"
Oh, yeah. Where's Misha? I don't know. I don't care.
It was wonderful. That was such a just wonderful, fantastic con. And we got some great pictures out of that. And just, and our enthusiasm about that fandom and that con encouraged another one of our friends to go to her first Supernatural Con.
Oh, yes.
Alone. She went alone.
Because she was so like, look, you're up north. Laura's in Germany. I want to go. I just binged the show. And we just kept saying, like, you should go, because especially if you're by yourself, somebody's going to completely embrace you, to be like, I got you. We're going to do this together. They're excited for you. And somebody's going to show you the ropes. And she did. And she is so happy right now because she had her fan photo with Jensen. And now he just released those promo photos for the boys. Soldier Boy.
Woo. Woo. The friend that we're talking about, she cried. She had after her photo, she went in the bathroom and had just like a full breakdown. And it's so wonderful. And as we like kind of mentioned earlier, the like build up to meeting these people is just such a adrenaline rush. And like afterwards, you're so tired. And if you have multiple photo ops a day, which is like kind of how Jess and I do it, your adrenaline goes up and down and up and down and up and down. So at the end of the day, like, you're dead. You are absolutely dead, and you're so tired. And I have just like a little story. So something that you have to be aware of, especially now in this like, I don't want to say post-COVID, but like COVID awareness kind of situation that we're in, is that there's something called con crud. And
that was pre-COVID.
That was pre-COVID. Like, so many people touching everything, and you're interacting with so many people, and you're so close. Like, you're so close to each other. You will get sick. And that's just what happens. You kind of just like go with it. I had a photo op with a known germaphobe at
Wizard World, right?
Wizard World, New York. And I went by myself. I was totally by myself. And they said while we were waiting in line, like, don't be offended. Like, this person is not going to touch you. That's just how he is. It's fine. Just know that. And he's got his arms around me, and it's so nice. And it was so unexpected. And afterwards, like, I said, thank you. And he was like, no, like, it's my pleasure. It was just this wonderful experience that I wasn't expecting. But then afterward, both of us were just like, rubbing our hands with hand sanitizer. And it was really lovely. But con crud is real, and it is pretty intense. I have gotten sick after every single con I've been to.
And sometimes, like, I usually don't get it right after, but there is a con season, if you will, where you're going to be in cons back to back. And it really is. So I think I've my body keeps going and then it crashes. Like it sustains me until that last. It's usually because con season like would end right after upfronts for a lull. Usually it was after upfronts, and then it really didn't pick back up till September, unless you're somebody who does the con season year round and you attend San Diego Comic-Con.
And I have not attended San Diego Comic-Con, but our very own Jessica Marie has.
Well, I definitely manifested that because I think we had said we were having so much fun with the cons, and I go, you know what? It would be so cool if I would love to attend San Diego Comic-Con one day. However, I had stipulations. I was like, I will attend San Diego Comic-Con, but I will only attend if I have all access badge behind the stage, everything that I need. And I did, and it was amazing. Oh, and I was like, and it will be for work. I said I didn't want to go as a fan. I said I want to go for work, and it happened, and it's amazing. And it's a completely different experience because for me, I'm not waiting. I'm like, I just, there is a terrible sense of entitlement that comes with it. And I know it's for work and I just want to be like, move. But I've definitely, I appreciate it. I've worked hard for it, whatever. But then having that same privilege at New York Comic-Con after spending 10 years or whatever it was, prepping for those behind the scene moments. And then I would have to leave the work. They go, hey, can you go to the show floor? We need you to pick up blah, 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 blah. To know that layout, it felt like Laura had prepped me for, it felt like a marathon when marathoners are just training the whole year for their one big one. I go, she has prepped me for 10 years. I got this. I have this.
Oh my gosh. I'm still not entirely familiar with how, the Javits Center is like set up. It's still confusing to me.
Well, I feel like it has changed some. And part of it's because it's gotten as big as it has. So they've done shifting. And that's another thing with the cons, and no matter where you are, at least with the creation, you had your assigned seats. So you could venture wherever you went to. You knew where your seat was going to be for the whole weekend. But if there's panels, depending on the con, some people will, if they want to see a panel, and again, you learn this the hard way, you're like, I just want to see this first episode of this pilot for CW. And so you wait in line. But what you don't realize, and I remember this happened with The Walking Dead one year, is I wanted to see like Rain, whatever, like I wanted to see Rain or something. And I couldn't get in because the room was at capacity. Why was it at capacity? Because people had been camping out in that hall since 9, 10 o'clock in the morning for a panel at 7, 8 o'clock at night. Like, that's wild to me. And it was really unfortunate because here you are as an individual con goer, again, learning the ropes, getting the experience of, oh, I can't just like watch it for 45 minutes, whatever the panel is, and leave. No, because you had everybody else who was camping out. And that's where the minimum 2-party system in con life is super helpful, because you could have somebody kind of sit down and you can go do this, or if you need to get out of line to kind of have a checks and balances to help each other out is really helpful.
So you bring that up, and that makes me think of our wonderful story of New York Comic Con. You and I wanted to see the Magicians cast because yes. I had read the books for the Magicians, and you had no idea what that was. And
Clearly.
You wanted to see Contagion, which...
Oh, right.
And they just so happened to be back to back in the same room. And that was just like serendipitous. It was just fantastic. So we got in there and we had our seats, and we were able to watch the pilot episode of Contagion, which got canceled after one season, but that is what it is. And that's like Julie Plec and everybody. That was very cool. And then
maybe we don't want to revisit Contagion as we're still in a COVID year.
Yeah, for real. For real. But after that, it was the Magicians cast, and that was their first like outing. That was the first time they were meeting everybody, and we got to like
and it
see.
It wasn't even like a panel it was just a room. Think of like a tiny conference room.
Yeah. And they were like up kind of on this like step, and they had tables and the mics, and they were all there. And they were so happy to be there, and they were so nice. And just, I think afterwards you were like, I'm going to watch this show because I love what I saw there.
And I think that's so important for talent to do. And like it's what we were discussing, having those real human experiences, those human interactions. Why wouldn't you want to support somebody who gives you a positive experience? If that's not how they acted, I would have been like, fuck this. Hope you get canceled. And I know between upfronts, we've definitely said like, good luck after one episode, you're going to get canceled. And because the whole lead up, especially before a new show, is those first impressions and those fan impressions, especially when you bring a book to the screen, whether it's the big screen or small screen. A niche fandom is only going to carry you so far. You know, the reason it's being adapted is because you need to kind of have a larger, broader audience. So I guess that really will contribute to how everything starts translating from book talk and beyond.
So if we're going to talk about like logistics and how cons work, let's talk about how cons work. So you have all the different tickets, and, you know, you have general and you have VIP tickets. And then there's this other category that is your VIP for one specific guest.
VIP,
but for one specific guest. And that's where it gets like tricky. So if you're VIP for one specific guest, then you have most of the like general VIP perks, I guess. Yeah, perks, that's the word. But you get to be first in line for your person in autographs and pictures.
And a guarantee for those things also.
Guarantee no matter what. If you're just like general VIP, even if you have a photo op and you're VIP, if you're not VIP for that person, you're still in the general like line in most cases. So it's tricky. It's weird. But I have to say, and I know this is like my privilege talking, I always get VIP tickets, and I wait until the con has been open for a little bit, and then just like go right up to the VIP check-in, and there's no line, there's no waiting. I just like get my stuff, and then I stroll in, get my map, I get oriented, and I do it that way because I don't want to, this is just like me in my general life, I don't want to be stressed about anything at all. So if I can make it as easy as possible, that's what I'm going to do. So that is how I approach like con life. And I think it's really important because like your photo ops with celebrities are 2 seconds, 3 seconds, maybe. You can get a little bit longer with celebrities. If you do an autograph line, you have like maybe a couple sentence conversation, unless you're Carrie Elwes, right? Do you remember he had like that tented off area?
He always has a tented off area. I've never done a meet and greet. I've never done an autograph with him because sometimes it's just human curiosity where you just kind of want to peek and see what's going on, but you don't want to actually kind of invest into it. And that's just kind of been my, you know, everybody loves him, obviously, for different reasons. Because, like, for me, it's the Princess Bride. But for some people, he's very big, like, in horror cons because of being in the Saw series. Everybody has, you know, and that's the cool thing about cons. Everybody has a different reason why they love different people. But I've never gotten to, you've met him, right?
I did. And he takes you in there and he has this, like, full-on conversation with you.
Oh.
And you're there like by yourself, like, you know, and you approach by yourself and it's tented off and everybody's like kind of separate. And it's one of those things where it's like, I don't know what to say to you. Like I have like maybe 2 sentences in my head that I have rehearsed that I'm going to say to you. But then he just like starts talking and you're like, I don't know what to say. I'm going to like sound stupid. So then you're just like, okay, thanks. Bye. And you kind of like run away.
I see.
He's so nice. He's so nice.
I feel like that. I think I'll never grow past my inferiority complex. I am not the main character in my own life. And especially if there's talent and they're talking to me and I think I think he's attractive, I revert to, third grade Jessica. I couldn't talk to my crushes. I still can't talk to my crushes. And if you're attractive on top of that, I'm fucked. Like, how am I supposed to carry on and then you, of course, you see somebody like some of these guys. Like, think about when before Ace Comic-Con was a thing. Those MCU boys did all those Wizard Worlds. You want me to formulate a sentence with somebody from the MCU? Like, even now, I'm just kind of like, how? I'm a grown adult and I'm supposed to talk to a boy? That's how it feels.
So we have a really fantastic celebrity story that we will share with all of you that involves our friend that had the breakdown at the Supernatural convention because she was just so happy to meet Jensen.
Aw.
Go ahead, Jess.
Okay, so this is Rhode Island Comic-Con. The reason Rhode Island Comic-Con started was because we went to New York Comic-Con that year, and at that point, we went to go just to let's just check it out. We weren't loving the vibe. We weren't loving the lineup. It just wasn't, it was weird. It just didn't feel like New York Comic-Con.
Because you had to buy your tickets before they announced the guests. That when that changed.
Year.
Yeah, it was the first year they did that.
So that was just it kind of fell flat, but we had our tickets. So we're like, let's just check it out, see who's there and go from there. Then we find out about Rhode Island Comic-Con. And our friend, she was living in Rhode Island. She was pursuing her doctorate. So we were like, well, let's make this like a weekend thing. Not only did we find out about Rhode Island Comic-Con, they had, even though it was a mess organization-wise, that lineup was amazing. Paled in comparison to New York Comic-Con. I don't even remember if I got one op. I don't remember.
At Rhode Island Comic-Con?
No, at New York Comic-Con.
New York Comic-Con. I don't remember anything about that year. Yeah.
I just don't remember anything about that year. I just remember, we should do this one. We made it a thing. We went up and there were certain things. Oh, Rick and Morty had come out that year. It was the first season of Rick and Morty. So whatever timeline that is, if you guys are following, you all are following. I'm going to really try to be better about not being so general with terms. And Jason Momoa was on the list. He had Game of Thrones had started, but he wasn't really being talked about. Aquaman wasn't out, but and he wasn't even confirmed for Aquaman yet. I think there was just discussions. So we said, let's get Jason Momoa. You got the cast photo of Supernatural, all the B members. So you had Bobby and you had the Ghost Hunters. You had, why can't I think of their names? The mom and the daughter, Ellen and Joe.
Yeah.
So it was just this the B team.
All of them, yeah.
Photo.
It was basically everybody except Mark and JJ and
Misha. Yeah. So it was so fun. And so again, because they were so disorganized, we were like, let's just go. It'll be a Saturday. We can just chill, kind of walk around, whatever. Here's the times that we just have to be in a certain place. And so we go to get our photo ops with Jason Momoa. We also did his autograph. We did the photo op. And our friend, she didn't have a photo op, and he's drinking.
She's drinking.
Yeah, she is drinking. We're in the photo op area that we were talking about earlier in the episode, where usually it's supposed to be this 2-second thing. She doesn't have a ticket. She's really just hanging. He winds up stopping the photos and talking to her. He goes, "Oh, what are you doing?" And she's like, "Oh, I'm just here I'm just here to drink. Do whatever you need to do." They start talking about how he's just here to drink also. They're cheersing. And we're just standing in the background what is going on? It was so exciting. We were so excited for her. And even now when she tells the story, she goes, "Nobody believes that I'm just cheersing Drago."
We were there.
Because we're just frozen. What is going on?
He's a gorgeous man. in person. Oh my God, he's so big and tall and happy and wonderful in person. It just, oh my gosh.
That is the like whatever you, and that was, it had to be like one of his first con experiences, whatever it was. He was in a good, because sometimes I feel like maybe cons can jade some talent, you know, especially with, I'm sure for some people there's an ego boost of like, oh, my line is bigger than your line. You know, it's just, I went to Rhode Island Comic-Con with Eddie one year, and it was like Joey Fatone's table was empty, but the guy from Ghost Hunters or Impractical Jokers was like,
aw.
I just felt so bad. And I didn't go to the table, and I was an NSYNC girl. Like, Laura was Backstreet Boy, so we're still friends despite our rivalry. I could not make myself go, because that goes with that adrenaline rush we were talking about. I go, I've loved NSYNC my entire life. Like, I can't. That is one. How am I just supposed to say hi? Please sign my first CD. It's just very. But that's the person that I am. That's just my personality. You have people who will just talk to a wall and not be nervous.
And not be nervous. That's the thing. I'm thinking back to Rhode Island Comic-Con and the guest. That's where I got Selma Blair. Random.
What was she doing? What is she?
I don't even know. Yeah, Selma Blair. And I got the entire original cast, I mean, minus, obviously, R.I.P., of the Power Rangers. Like, that, I mean, just this Skinner from X-Files. And he had an individual table for X-Files. And, like, just wild. That was a wild, random con experience, I have to say.
Was that the year, maybe not, but that was around the same time, I guess it was, when you were talking about the New York Comic Con, where there was a really big con shift.
Oh, definitely.
Where cons went from a Comic Con world and like those fandoms that had negative stigmas, or like the stigma that comes with being a fan of comics and quote unquote nerd things. And then everything had a con, you know, and it was like, you could probably be like a coloring book con, and there would be a con for that. Like, I feel like that's where that, like, everything had a con at some point.
Yeah. And I feel like the shift, so at that one, we're saying like Selma Blair was there. Like I can't think of anything off the top of my head that she was in that would be like nerdy that would get her there. You know, Christy Swanson was there. She's the original Buffy. Like the Power Rangers, they were there. Like Skinner from, you know, X-Files, like Supernatural, like those people. There was an actor that was very popular in the 90s. He was there. That, you know,
is the one that hit on you?
No, that was a different one. This one, that was a different one. Many. Yeah, that was a different one. But like this other this actor was there, and like he was big on a TV show in the 90s, so like he could, you know, be there. And I feel like the shift happened too, where like movie stars ended up showing up. And like ones that you wouldn't expect. I remember New York Comic Con one year had $500 photo ops with Sylvester Stallone. And it was just like, do you remember that? It was like,
I remember that.
Like, really?
And people were paying.
Yeah, people were paying that. And it's just like, oh, okay.
But this goes back to you know, the people who are there for the fans and there to make a quick buck.
Oh, for example.
Because let's not forget, especially if things are happening at the table, you can't pay card. At least like when we've been going, it's cash only. Because they can walk away with that. And sure, they have to, like, if you've ever like been a server, like I remember we'd have cash tips. You have to claim a percentage of it, but it's cash. You can't really track that. Or like, and not even to be sketchy, but like you think of mom and pop places who have like their kids working like at 12, you know, bringing out like a plate of pasta. You know, it happens, and you can't claim the cash. So like, how are you going to tax? You can't say if something was $10 or $11. So you say it's $10. You know, I just feel like I assume, I don't know anybody, you know, I don't know their financial standings as celebrities, that it's a quick buck that they don't have to write taxes on completely.
So, Jesse, I know that you know this story. There was a celebrity that I went to Wizard World Philly for, and he is a very famous actor. And at the time, he was like moderately famous. And he took 500 pictures making the exact same face. And it was like, yeah.
I know where we're going with this story.
Yeah. It was dead. It's a dead face. He didn't want to be there. He didn't touch anybody. He didn't talk to anybody. It was like standing with a cardboard cutout would have been a better experience, because at least then you could have done like a funny pose or something. But like it was awful. It was so terrible. And it was like embarrassing for everybody.
Didn't you call him out on his shit too?
I called him out on it. I was like, you could smile. And he didn't say anything. He was just like, okay. But then you go to the table to pick up your picture, right? Because that's part of the con process. You go through, you have your picture taken, and then you have to kind of stalk the tables where they print out your pictures to get them, and everybody's there. And you just saw like hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of pictures where he's just like so miserable. And it's like, okay, like you are making so much money, and it's awful for everybody involved. Like,
and the other thing is, like, you're making money. You don't have to be here if you don't want to. And then the other part is like, well, like we said earlier, you're an actor. How about you act for this money? And thank God that they've actually been better about the photo process, because you'd have to wait out. Even if you could have just gone to the con, had your op at 10 a.m. and that's all you wanted, you're still lingering around. You used to just linger around. And now that, based on technology and everything, you're walking out and your pictures printing out. But I remember there would be con days where, even if you had ops on a Sunday, you were just exhausted, and you would say, like, my mental health and physical health is not worth me going for a second day. And I just ran on exhaust for 10 years. So I was like, oh, I'll go. I'll pick up whatever you need to. And I would also go back and look at the table to see where your photo ops were.
And I remember specifically there was a Wizard World Philadelphia where it was The Walking Dead. It was very popular at the time.
Oh, every time The Walking Dead is involved, it's a fucking shit show.
There were so many people that were there for the cast of The Walking Dead that Stephen Amell, his pictures, which were taken earlier in the day, were bumped back in priority for printing. So what ended up happening is the con closed at 10 o'clock. They took everybody out and closed the doors, and people were like, where are my pictures? Where are my pictures? And they were printing them in the back, and people like were coming out and just like dumping pictures on tables because of the backlog. And it was just like the worst experience. And that was the con right before I went to Wizard World New York. It was like the next weekend or like a little bit after that.
Yeah, Wizard World, and I'm still surprised, but part of me maybe fiscally not, that they stopped doing Wizard World New York and solely focused on Wizard World Philly.
Yeah, which was sad. I really liked Wizard World New York. It was in a cool location. It was a lot of fun.
Wasn't it? I feel like it was in Alphabet City or something.
I don't know. It was in the docks. It was over. Yeah. So I don't know.
It wasn't at Javits. That's all
No. It was cool. It was cool. It was a weird. Yeah, it was just a really weird experience being The Walking Dead. Jess, so I feel like we should start talking about like what needs to be in your con bag and everything like that. But before we do that, do you have a favorite? No, let me reword this. Has there been a photo op where you have cried after?
Yeah. I have two, and I'm thinking of it right now that I refuse, because it's like the photo is packed away and I never want to look at it again. But it's still ingrained in my head.
Are those bad tears or happy tears?
Bad tears.
Bad tears.
Bad tears.
Bad tears.
I don't think I have a happy tears one. Maybe it was a supernatural one, I want to say. But I didn't have happy tears. I don't think I've ever cried at a con. I freaked out over Matt Smith because he was, he's my favorite doctor. And I definitely freaked out over him. Yeah. Because I remember because that was our photo op with Karen Gillan and him. And he was my favorite doctor and she is my favorite companion. And I was just so excited. And I just couldn't, and then they had to retake the photo. So we had to stay there just in this awkward group shot.
Like right next to them. Yeah.
It was just, I just remember being so geeked out over that in Nathan Fillion because
that's mine. I bring that up because I was thinking, and I cried after I got a group shot with the cast of Firefly. That
was at Philly, right?
That was at Philly. That was at Philly. It was at the same con where Sam and I got Stan Lee and R.I.P. And yeah, Sam was with me for Firefly, and it was everybody except Nathan because at the time Nathan was rumored to be trying out for Ant-Man at the time.
Oh,
yeah,
that was a while ago.
It was a while ago, and
I can't imagine him as Ant-Man. Is that weird?
No, yeah,
okay.
I can't either. But that was the rumor. I don't think that's confirmed, but like that was the rumor at the time. Like he wasn't there. He was supposed to be, but everybody else was there, and just. Like we got there and we took the picture and like afterwards, like I started shaking and I just started crying. I was like, oh my God, like that's all of them except Nathan, but like all of them. It was so wonderful. And like later, you and I got Nathan and he was sweaty.
Sweaty Nathan.
Sweaty Nathan.
Nice. You know what? And you know what? It's funny because you say these group shots and you can't help. It's like it is an adrenaline rush, and sometimes you crash right afterwards because it's not so much about it really is a moment that's captured because of the bigger association that comes with the photo op. It's not just here's a photo of me with this cast. It's deeper than that, and maybe that goes with like all of our. Maybe this is why we're like, maybe it's a whole therapy thing that we joke about on Book Talk, but it is a bigger thing because there's so much association with it. And I still regret that I never did One Tree Hill Con. That is still like my favorite show to this day. It is a comfort. I can finish it and I'm ready to rewatch it. Everybody has those shows. I've met them, certain ones here and there. But like they could be working on a different project. I give zero fucks about that project. I just know you as this person, and I'm sorry, but like Stephen Coletti's character on One Tree Hill, like he will always be Stephen from Laguna Beach, that'll stiffen. But there's just, it's so much bigger than just, I met this person. And I think there's also something special because that you can get that excited about these people that you've met too, because we have, and even outside the con circuit, just being in entertainment, we meet a lot of people. And I think that can desensitize a lot of people after a while. And some people can be super blasé about it. But I think there's just something so special when you get to meet a person, even if you've met other people, and you still get excited about it.
So the last con that I went to was Munich, the German Comic-Con, which was, it feels like forever ago.
Well, because it was forever ago. Nothing happened in 2020.
This is true. This is all true. I met some really cool people. Battlestar Galactica is one of my favorite shows, so I got to meet some of the people from Battlestar Galactica. I got Cersei from Game of Thrones, and I got some Legends of Tomorrow people. But the most random kind of story that I'll share, and then, we can go on to what's in our con bags, but I only had like a straight up €100 bill, which is like not really helpful. And Casey Cott was there from Riverdale, and I went up and I was like, I want an autograph, and his autograph was like €35, and I was like, can you break this 100? And Casey pulled out his own wallet and like took my money and then just like gave me change. I was just like, this is so nice. Like, thank you. Like I'm not a huge fan, but like you're here and I wanted to like support you, but weird. It was so weird.
Oh, this goes back to individual experiences because and this could also like tie into like life and a bigger picture, your individual experience with that person is very different than other individual experiences I've heard people have with that person. And again, it's completely different because I've had the same thing. I remember I met somebody in Central Park. Somebody goes, "Is that so-and-so?" And I go, "Oh my God, it is." And we asked for a picture. It was super nice. It was fine. He kept walking. I kept walking. And then somebody I heard, they go, "He was nice to you?" I go, "Well, why wouldn't he be?" You know? And then you find out that it's just everybody's interaction is different. So
we cannot praise con life enough. It is just the best. And I miss it. And I cannot wait to really reintegrate into con life when I move back to the States and all the cons.
It'll be interesting to see how everything is kind of how things, I don't want to say reassimilate, but like everybody reacclimates to con life because it's been over a year. And in that year, they've kind of tailored con life to be in a virtual capacity right now.
It has. Before we get into what cons kind of look like now with everything, Jess, what is in your con bag?
Okay. As right off the bat, I will say, as somebody who suffers from migraines, peppermint oil, because it's like a homeopathic thing. You put it on your temples. I put it under my nose, like how you would with like Vicks Vapor Rub or something. And put it on your pressure points because, I mean, I can remember one of the New York Comic Con specifically, I had just had to leave. I couldn't muster through it anymore because my migraine was so bad. But that has kind of helped me chug along. That's the first thing. Band-Aids, battery chargers. Huge person of bike shorts under a dress. You're going to be waiting. I don't want to yeah, I could be a lady and cross my legs, whatever. No, I want to be comfortable. I have no idea how long this is going. Shorts are going under that dress. Because yes, when I go to a con, I am always in a dress. I don't wear jeans. I don't wear pants. I don't wear leggings. I am in a look.
I think the number one thing in my con bag is deodorant. Deodorant is key. Because you're nervous, you're sweating, your boobs are sweating, your armpits are sweating, you're sweating everywhere. So deodorant, key. A little trick that I picked up is small perfume samples, like a roll-on. And if you are worried at all about how you smell or like you're going to be putting your arms around somebody and you're just like uncomfortable, roll a little bit of that perfume on your shoulders and like you smell it and you just like feel better and you feel like calm. And something that is not talked about, that Jess, you and I both know the importance of, bring a bag, preferably a backpack, but, bag, might change, their policies might change now, but bring a bag that fits a school folder, because in that folder, you are going to put your photos and your autographs. And this is key, you want to have the plastic, inserts. And they sell them at cons, but they usually sell them for $5 a pop. So you want to get them somewhere else to slide your pictures and your autographs into to keep them from bending.
Yeah. I found a con that was selling them for $1 a piece, those page protectors. And I was just having a conversation with the person and she goes, at cost, they're 25 cents. They're 25 cents. So she goes, I'm already making a 75-cent profit by selling these for $1, and you have these vendors selling them for $5 a pop. So they're already making, knowing that you have 25 cents, they're already making $4.75 profit per page protector. So just knowing that, I've bulked up. I think I've even do you need some? I have too many, and I don't have enough cons to go to.
We'll fix that problem.
But they're also great for just if I have to send something I think for you, I was sending something autographed for you. And I said, look, I have it in this page protector because you were coming from New York and you were traveling to Germany. I go, I obviously would have put it in a frame, but that's not international. That's not convenient for international travel. So they're great for transportation.
Also in a con bag, a change of shoes. Preferably you get hot foot. I don't know if anyone's aware of hot foot when your feet are just so completely hot and you just have to take your shoes off. So when you're leaving, like some sort of flat or sandal to like air your feet out. And just like if you're in heels or like sneakers or anything. So those are absolutely key. And then Jess, you have a story.
Oh, yeah. So my story is a shower cap. And I know it sounds really silly. So we do, like we were saying, we do our hair. We want to look cute for our photos. But the weather doesn't always cooperate. So I learned, if we've learned anything, if you go to a con, whatever you wear, everything goes, right? So my story was I put a shower cap on and I'm thinking, well, what people are going to, again, I'm like, people are going to think this is weird. Why am I wearing a shower cap? But my trick was I brought like a flip-flop, like a chancla. So somebody was asking me, like, if somebody asked, why do you have a shower cap on? My quote unquote cosplay was my Spanish grandmother. Like, you can't question me with a shower cap and a chancla in my hand that just like walking around, and it's a flip flop, so I can just throw it back in my con bag when I'm done, which is what I did, because then I got to my destination, I took my shower cap off, and I paid for that the shower cap that's lined with the terry cloth, so it takes all the humidity also, and my hair looked good. I was so excited because I think it was one of the weekends I think you weren't going for this day, but I was meeting one of our friends, and he goes, "What are you doing?" And I was like, "Bam!" He just started laughing at me. He goes, "Why would you wear?" I go, "It's raining out. My hair is done. It took me a long time to curl this hair."
Fantastic.
But it's a stupid story, but it's one of those things that you learn that not everybody's going to tell you. You have your own experiences that, it's like some people, I think, even started bringing those neck pillows to cons, not because they were taking a nap in line, but because if they were looking down reading, it was just more comfortable, because that's where everybody's catching up on their fanfics in line.
Oh, yeah. And handheld fans, too, because sometimes you can get like overheated.
You were really good about that with the German Comic Con, where you had your fan and everybody, it was something that you didn't think until you saw somebody else have it at one con. You just kind of grow. It's all alert. You kind of grow off of each other too.
Yeah. And then you have that in your con bag, and then you can help anybody that needs help. And that's really what it is. It's about the community and the experience together, and you're all there to love the same things. So we know that because of COVID, cons have been a little bit different. And Jess, you have some info on that.
Yeah, I mean, it was more along the lines of talking to someone who had been actively participating in the virtual con scene because of COVID. And I just had some questions because how does it work? Do you really get the con experience? She goes, it makes you miss the con experience. It's more along the lines of something to do. But she said some of the cons would have, free panels, and you could just submit like a chat for a Q&A for the moderator to have, questions to the talent. It just kind of reminded me of, remember at the beginning of the pandemic where everybody was trying to come together to just create entertainment, not in a content creator sense the way you have on social media or you have like social media stars, but it was really just, we're all stuck. How can we all entertain each other? You have some people who really relied on the con circuit for their source of income. I mean, there have been talent interviews. I can't remember the article that was shared on Twitter a few years back where popular people like from Firefly would say it was more cost effective for them to make money at a con for 2 days than to actively keep working as an actor. Which is, you are cashing in on nostalgia, but at the end of the day, it's, you have a family to take care of. You need to, bank isn't going to say, it's okay, we'll pay for your groceries, And I thought that was really interesting. So you have people who are relying on these virtual cons as a source of income. And so they started doing the Zoom chats and, and then I guess stuff that was similar to Cameo, where you can ask for exclusive messages to be recorded and you can interact with. Again, this goes back to just like me. I would love to know how it's not awkward, because even if you think of your autograph table, you usually just say, "Hi, how are you? Thank you." And you keep going. To have a full on conversation, that stresses me out.
Well, and we were talking, so Jess and I are fans of the Roswell, New Mexico. And one of our favorite people on Roswell is Michael. Michael Flamis is the actor. And he has his own merch shop. And his merch is fantastic. I have a lot of it. But he was selling meet and greets. And it was like a 5-minute like Zoom chat. And he would record some of them and like post them. And, you know, everybody's very happy. But like I never bought one because like, as you said, what do you say besides like, I love you. I love what you're doing. I'm a big fan. I'm going to crawl into a hole now.
Right. And, you know, it's funny because some of these Zoom recordings, like the Zoom, like, oh, you have a time limit to talk to somebody. They'll give you like a 2-minute window. And if you've ever interacted with somebody, 30 seconds seems like a long time. 10 seconds seems like a long time. So the idea of having a 2-minute conversation with somebody that you don't want to freeze up, and also you want to be mindful of how many times have they probably already answered the question that you probably have. I mean, sometimes, maybe this is just me being neurotic. The amount of panels, like when I really was on my arrow high, that I watched of other panels at other cons, so I knew what not to talk about. Again, that's like totally my personality of being neurotic about something sometimes. It was just because you want to be mindful. And I would think that a journalist also probably, I would like to think a journalist would do that, to do their research. So they're not, because I sat in on something recently and the talent said, oh, I can tell you haven't seen this interview, or I can tell you haven't read my book. In the middle of the interview, I was mortified for this journalist because I'm watching this interview. I mean, good for her for calling her out on her ship, because then you have on me as somebody who does prep for my own interviews. If I know who I'm interviewing, I'm researching everything about them. So that way they go, oh, you looked me up. And I'm not making it a secret because you probably looked me up too. You would think that there would be some research there, so the person you're interviewing isn't calling you out on it.
Oh, how embarrassing.
How embarrassing. And it wasn't just like this behind the scenes thing for work. It was recorded live for an audience. And I'm just like, oh,
Oh,
cringe.
Cringe. Such cringe. This has been a long episode and we are aware of that. So we have a lot of stories like this and we have a lot of experiences like this. So if y'all are interested, we could do more con life stories.
Yeah, absolutely. And and there's still more. Especially since we do focus a lot of on books here, there's book cons, and that could be its own conversation, and we'll tap it out here. Sorry to our editor. Sorry to you all for listening. But that's kind of what fandoms are about. We can talk for hours about anything, right? So feel free to follow us on Instagram at ACOFAE Podcast, and we're both on TikTok, ACOFAE Laura, ACOFAE Jessica, and we'll wrap this up real quick now. Thanks.
Thank you so much for listening. This has been such a fun episode.
Bye.